The village of Evershade was small, a hidden gem in the vast countryside. It was nestled between rolling hills that seemed to stretch endlessly into the horizon, and a dense, ancient forest whose towering trees whispered secrets of old. Life there was simple, untouched by the grand affairs of the world, a place where time seemed to stand still. Aria, a young woman with eyes as deep as the forest itself, lived at the edge of the village, where the trees met the open fields. She was a skilled seamstress, known far and wide for her exceptional talent. Her nimble fingers wove magic into every piece of cloth she touched, creating garments that seemed to come alive. The villagers often sought her out, knowing that her creations were unmatched. They needed her to craft garments for their most important occasions, from weddings to festivals. Aria, though quiet and reserved, was kind-hearted and always willing to lend a helping hand. She always helped those in need, never turning anyone away. She found solace in her craft and in the silence of her cottage, where the outside world could not intrude. Little did she know her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. A darkness was creeping over Evershade, a shadow that seemed to grow with each passing day. Aria felt it too. There was a coldness in the air, a chill that seemed to seep into the very soul of the village. It seeped into her bones, making her shiver even in the warmth of her home. She tried to ignore it, focusing on her work with a determination that bordered on desperation. She buried herself in her work, her fingers moving frantically as if to ward off the encroaching darkness. It was no use. The shadows were growing longer, stretching out like dark fingers reaching for her. They seemed to whisper her name, a haunting call that sent chills down her spine. A series of misfortunes befell Evershade. Crops withered, livestock fell ill, a strange sickness gripped the villagers. Fear, like a venomous serpent, coiled in their hearts. Whispers of witchcraft began to circulate. The villagers, desperate for answers, looked for someone to blame. Their eyes, clouded by fear and suspicion, fell upon Aria. She was different. She was a solitary figure. Aria preferred the company of her needle and thread to the idle gossip of the village square. The villagers remembered her affinity for herbs and her knowledge of ancient remedies. It was all too convenient, too strange. The seeds of doubt, once sown, took root quickly. They blossomed into a terrifying certainty. Aria, they convinced themselves, was a witch.
Aria, you have summoned darkness upon Evershade. This is all you're doing.
You demon in disguise. We know what you are.
The accusation came on a day as grey and bleak as their hearts. The sky was overcast, mirroring the darkness in their souls. A group of villagers, their faces contorted with fear and anger, stormed into Aria's cottage. Their eyes were wild, filled with a mix of terror and rage. They accused her of summoning darkness upon Evershade. Their voices were a cacophony of blame and hatred. They blamed her for their misfortunes, for every ill that had befallen the village. They called her a demon in disguise, a bringer of doom.
No, please, you must understand, I have done nothing wrong. I'm innocent. I am not what you think I am. You have to believe me.
Aria, shocked and hurt, denied the accusations. She pleaded with them, her voice trembling with desperation. She tried to reason with their fear to make them see the truth, but her words fell on deaf ears. The villagers were too consumed by their own fears. The villagers were blinded by superstition, their minds clouded by ignorance. They dragged her from her home. They ripped her shawl, tearing it to shreds. They tore at her hair, pulling it with a viciousness that spoke of their deep-seated fear. They were like animals possessed, driven by a primal need to destroy what they did not understand. They shoved her towards the edge of the village, their hands rough and unyielding. The forest loomed before her, a dark and foreboding presence. It was dark and menacing, a place where shadows seemed to come alive. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced Aria's heart. The forest was a place of whispers and shadows. It was said to be the dwelling place of fairies and other creatures that were both beautiful and terrifying. She had always avoided it. Now it was to be her prison, her tomb. The villagers left her at the forest's edge. They warned her never to return. Tears streamed down Aria's face. She stumbled into the undergrowth. Thorns tore at her clothes. The forest seemed to close in around her, swallowing her whole. Despair threatened to consume her. Yet, as she ventured deeper, something shifted within her. The fear began to morph. It became a cold, hard anger. The forest, she realized, was not her end. It was her beginning. Deep within the forest's shadowy embrace, Aria stumbled upon a hidden glade, a place she had never seen before, despite her many wanderings. It shimmered with an otherworldly light, casting a soft, enchanting glow that seemed to pulse with life. Strange creatures, their eyes glowing with an ethereal light, surrounded her, their presence both intimidating and mesmerizing. They were the fairies of the forest, ancient beings of magic and mystery, creatures of magic and myth, their existence whispered about in old tales and forgotten legends.
We have watched you, Aria, through the veil of time and space. We have heard your pleas, your cries for justice echoing through the forest. We saw the injustice inflicted upon you, the pain and suffering you endured.
The fairies offered Aria a choice, a path that could change her destiny forever. They could ease her pain, mend her broken spirit. They could give her the power to seek justice, to right the wrongs done to her. She could become more than human, a being of immense power and purpose.
All you have to do is drink from the Well of Shadows, a source of ancient magic.
The choice was clear, the path laid out before her under the moonlit sky. Hatred burned in her heart, a fierce and unyielding flame. It was a searing, consuming fire, one that demanded action. Aria drank deeply from the well, the cool water filling her with a sense of purpose. As she did, a surge of power, raw and untamed, coursed through her veins. She was transformed, reborn. Her brown eyes turned the color of jade, glowing with newfound strength. Her fingers tingled with newfound energy, crackling with potential. The forest welcomed her as its own, the trees swaying as if in recognition of their new guardian. The forest became Aria's sanctuary, the fairies, her teachers. They taught her the secrets of the natural world. They showed her how to harness the power of the earth and the wind. She learned to control the elements. She could summon storms with a whisper. She could command animals to do her bidding. Most importantly, she learned to bend the very fabric of magic to her will. With each passing day, her powers grew. So did her thirst for vengeance. She practiced her spells. She honed her magic. She remembered the faces of the villagers. The memory of their betrayal fueled her. She would have her revenge. Evershade would learn to fear the witch they had created. Section 7. Wrath of the Awakened. Under the cover of a moonless night, Aria returned to Evershade. She was no longer the scared girl they once knew. The forest had hardened her resolve. It had imbued her with a power they could not comprehend. She moved with a grace and power that was unnerving. Her eyes, now emerald green, blazed with cold fury. The villagers would pay for what they had done. The wind howled around her. It carried her rage. She unleashed a torrent of magic upon the village. Storms raged, crops withered and died. The livestock, once healthy and strong, perished overnight. Panic gripped the villagers. They huddled in their homes. They were trapped by their own fear. Their whispers confirmed what they already knew. Aria was back. Section 8. Flight of the Night Wind. The villagers, consumed by terror, remembered their accusations. They realized the grave mistake they had made. They sent a delegation to beg for Aria's forgiveness. They offered her gifts. They pleaded for mercy.
Aria, please, we beg you, have mercy on us. We were wrong.
Aria listened to their pleas. She watched them grovel. A cold satisfaction settled in her heart. Their fear was a balm to her wounded soul. She could have destroyed them all. She could have unleashed the full fury of her magic, but something stopped her. She had changed. The forest had taught her the futility of blind vengeance. Their fear was punishment enough. She would not become the monster they believed her to be. Section 9. Whispers in the Wind. Aria turned her back on Evershade. She vanished into the forest. She left behind a village forever scarred by their actions. They would forever remember the night their fear and ignorance almost destroyed them. The forest welcomed her back. It embraced her as one of its own. She became a legend, a whisper in the wind. Some say she still wanders the forest. She protects it from those who would do it harm. She is the guardian of its secrets. She is the embodiment of its power. She is the night wind. Section 10. A legacy of shadows. The story of Aria became a cautionary tale in Evershade. It was passed down from generation to generation. It served as a reminder of the dangers of fear and the terrible price of injustice. The villagers learned to fear the forest and its secrets. They also learned to respect the power that resided within its depths. The legacy of Aria, the witch they had created, lived on. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, even in the face of unimaginable cruelty, there is always hope. There is always the possibility of transformation. And sometimes, revenge is best served with a whisper and a passing storm.